Hello everyone, in today's video I want to delve into the topic of how have and how will a Labour government handle the topic of Israel-Palestine. In the 2024 general election, despite picking up a landslide majority of seats, the share of Muslim votes fell for Labour. This video is not picking sides per se, but will analyse the conflict from the interest of both sides, which is to end this conflict as quickly as possible, despite the intricacies and specifics of how they want to stop being vastly differing. We're going to firstly look at what the expectations of the Labour government were, what Britain could do to influence the Israel-Palestine conflict, and what Keir Starmer has done so far to tackle this issue. Finally, have Labour surpassed their expectations? And if so, why? What were the expectations of the Labour government for this issue in relation to the side for Palestinian suffrage? Well, not high, and this fact can be evidenced. Without grouping all British Muslims in a box, statistically they overwhelmingly support the Palestinian cause in the Middle Eastern conflict, and many voters, some of whom are a bit less engaged in politics, were single issue voters, voting about the UK's stance in the conflict as to show solidarity with the Palestinian cause, or to even abstain from voting altogether because they felt like the major political parties were just contributing to the suffering of the Palestinians. The stats don't lie. Looking at any data or any poll, it seems there is a clear consensus that Muslim support for the Labour Party has widely dropped. Whereas in the 2019 general election, 80% of Muslims are believed to have voted for Labour. In the 2024 election, it's believed to have dropped by 20 percentage points. Looking at the election data, this Muslim support has seemed to have gone to the Green Party and to independent party candidates. So luckily for Labour, they haven't gone to their main opponents, the Conservatives or something, for systemic reasons. It just seems like as the issues and the policies have evolved, their party preference has as well. So they should be able to get them back if the policies and the actions of the government reflect their preferences. I mean, what could Britain even do? This is an interesting question I've touched upon before on an article I've written, which I will link below once I've finished setting up my website, where you can find the full collection of my videos and articles as I make them, covering a variety of topics to do with world politics and affairs. Should I make a newsletter which you could subscribe to keep up to date? Let me know in the comments if it could be a good idea. To summarise many concepts and principles in international law in short, Britain can't do much, especially if America doesn't stop support as well. Israel is ultimately a sovereign, recognised country. Palestine is not officially as of now, and this has had many ripples in the international scene. Palestine was a country, this conflict would have been stopped a long time ago. However, it's not, and unless the UK invades, it cannot stop Israel directly from doing its actions. However, just because it may not be able to completely stop Israel, it doesn't mean there aren't many ways to affect change in the right direction. Let's see what Jeremy Corbyn would like to see happen. Without going too much into the specific details of everything, Jeremy Corbyn generally wants to see the suspension of provisions of arms and arms systems to Israel, as he sees this as ultimately being used against civilians. Keir Starmer and the Labour government said that they will review legal advice on the weapons sales to Israel, stating that Israel is ultimately in a hostile region of the world, and given the opportunity their neighbours would probably invade them, so they argue that it's important that Israel has the defensive capabilities to defend itself. However, that depends on the legal advice and the specifics of the detail. Jeremy Corbyn also says, in terms of international law, that Labour should completely get behind the ICC and their prosecution of Hamas and Israeli leaders, and drop all challenges to delay the process and make public declarations of support for the process, and ultimately recognise the state of Palestine, and a final step, potentially impose sanctions if Israel is found guilty enough. I mean, what has Labour done so far? The UK were initially expected to drop a challenge to the ICC over Israeli arrest warrants, claiming that, according to the 1993 Oslo Accords, when the Palestinian Authority was established, it could not allege Israel war crimes. However, since this legal challenge has been seen as a bit flimsy, as the ICC has since then invited Palestine to be under its authority, and in 2021 said it did have the power to investigate war crimes in the occupied territories. However, due to alleged pressure from the US, the UK has reversed this decision, because why not? It's not exactly the first time the UK has blindly followed America in foreign policy decisions. I say blindly because evidently this is not their intention once coming into power, and logically thinking this decision through and announcing it, but apparently America's logic supersedes it a bit. David Lammy, the British Foreign Secretary, announced that the UK would resume funding for, as I like to call it, UNRWA, the UN Relief Works Agency. Lammy has been quoted in saying, "It's a moral necessity in the face of such a catastrophe. £21 million worth of aid will be released to support the organisation's life-saving work in the region." This funding was initially paused after the October 7th attacks, when it was found that 12 staff members were involved in the attacks against Israel within the organisation. Since then, however, independent reviews have taken place, assuring the organisation's safety and highest standards of neutrality and vetting. And the UK has now followed suit, similarly to its partners such as France, Germany, Japan, and Norway, and has now restored funding to the organisation. David Lammy and Keir Starmer have been firm in their position on roughly three things. There must be substantive, swift peace negotiations. At the end of these negotiations, there must be a cessation of fighting, and there must be an internationally recognised sovereign Palestinian state. So softer on this issue than Jeremy Corbyn, but way more active than the Tories, for example. The general approach of the government has shocked some commentators, who have been surprised by how quickly and strongly the government has tried to tackle this issue. Accounts like UK Fact Check Politics, which are ardently on the pro-Palestinian side, have highlighted the actions of Keir Starmer and Labour, which has surprised many. I can say anecdotally that many of my pro-Palestinian friends have been pleasantly surprised by the actions of the government and the urgency of the issue, how quickly they acted after taking power. And I can say that they originally didn't have much high hopes, seeing certain statements come out from Keir Starmer just reiterating his previous positions. However, I can say there feels to be a feeling of pleasant surprise at the moment. To summarise, Labour have been taking some key swift actions in regards to this issue of Israel-Palestine, and people have been generally surprised by the urgency and speed of which the government has acted and how they put this issue at the top of their agenda. So I just want to thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you enjoyed, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.